somehow or another, and I started talking about this early on in Dirty Jobs, it just became clear that in our society, we had identified work as the enemy. It's like the proximate cause of all our misery is the fact that our frickin' boss is up our ass, and every day for 8 or 10, 12 hours, I got to go make little rocks out of big rocks, and life isn't fair, and damn it, something ought to be done. And this whole thing is modeled around the idea that I have to do whatever it is I have to do until I get to the point where I can retire. Right? So like I'm retirement age now. I like the idea of retiring is so insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, so why
Still work to be done.
There's more than ever. So look, to answer your question, I'm super sympathetic to Gen Z. I want them to find meaningful work, but the meaning it's not inherent in the work. It's in the dude.
Right.
It's in you. And you get to assign whatever level of meaning you want to that sweatshirt or that nuclear sub or this cup of coffee or this poisonous cream that your people brought me that right now is either making me tired or jacked up. I can't decide yet.
No, in 30 seconds, you're going to start telling us all your secrets, you know? You're going to tell us where you keep your favorite wood whittle.
My greatest fear.
Is a whittle a thing, a tool?
A whittler could be a person who whittles.
Okay.
A whittlet could be a thing that you whittle, but a whittle flunk is the actual tool in question. And you can Google that. Now, you won't find anything to confirm any of it. I just felt like it was my turn to talk again.
Oh, that's very fair. I'm going to say this. You know what? You're right. And I think that used to be a part of kind of what you were saying even in school. It's like, I pledge allegiance to my country. This country means something to me. Like, my grandfather worked at this factory where they made parts. It was for FMC, right? And they made like parts for elevator shafts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he would go to the factory and it was like this thing. And then when we were in elevators, we would see his little emblem on the thing. He'd be like, oh, Grandpa made this, you know?
Dude, that
kind of stuff was huge. It was like, even like native, like in cultures, there are stories that you tell your grandkids. It's like the meaning of being human, we passed from each other. We passed it in like relics and in artifacts. And, you know, you keep things from people that meant something to you. So I think that just because that only happens, it doesn't only happen like in your family, like if your grandfather passes away and you keep something that meant something to him, but it happens as a community too. It's like you have things that mean something to you and that carry on.
One of my
Does that make any sense? Am I rambling? I'm okay.
No, dude, I'm telling you.
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course it makes sense, dude. It makes you feel alive, dude. You know? It makes you feel alive. And then like you see something across town, you're like, man, I was a part of that. And you get to drive by and tell your son, I built that house. And your son's like, no way. I want to learn how to build something, you know?
Why do you think people lost their shit when Obama said, you didn't build that? You didn't do that. We all did that together. It was an insult to what you're saying.
That part of us.
It doesn't mean that we're not all part of a team, a country, a concerted effort, but it does mean like if you rob an individual of that feeling, then you have reduced his work to only the transactional component. It's just a paycheck now.
Right.
But I'm telling you, my life changed. It was early on in Dirty Jobs, and we weren't even really filming yet, or it was after we shot, and I was working with a mason, and I was in his pickup truck, and he was dropping me back at the hotel. And as we're driving down, we were in some little Midwest town, and we were driving down some easily forgettable street. But the architecture on either side was super cool, right? And as we're driving, he was like pointing up to the facade. He goes, yeah, we did that one. And then around the corner, he's like, yeah, we did that one too. And see over here the way that one took, and as he was talking, like his eyes were filling up, and he was driving past his life's work, and it was there on display to be seen, and I was very happy for him to be able to have that, but also very mindful of the fact that you can see the same wonder in the sewer, right? Like the architecture down there and the technology. Now, except you'll never see it. And you'll never see the guys who tend to it because it's all out of sight and it's all out of mind.
Do you think there's something different about the Gen Z workforce, or do you think there's just they haven't had the same examples that previous generations had, you know?
Yeah, I do. I think, well, look, again, painting with too broad a brush sucks. And, you know,
I agree. We're not pointing at the Gen Z workforce like you're bad or anything like that. Because, you know, it's so funny. It's like we had a guy on recently, this guy Alexander Wang, and he's not the fashion guy that got murdered. He's like kind of a semi-Chinese guy, but he founded Scale AI. It's an AI company. And he was saying that one way to look at AI is that everyone will kind of level up, right? It's like suddenly kind of robots or computers will do a lot of the more menial tasks, and everyone will kind of be a manager. And it's interesting because if you say that to me or your generation, our generation, kind of, that people would be like, well, I don't want to be the manager of 5 robots and I sit in a small dark room all the time and you know, and that's my life, and maybe I get 4-day work week instead of 5.
Yeah.
But if you told my nephews that, hey, you get to be the manager of 5 robots and you just sit in this room and control them all day, they would think that's awesome.
Right.
Just because of how they've grown up, you know, like everything is so gamified. So it's kind of interesting because you start to get into what the whole like perception of work, of being alive even is to people. Does that make any sense to you?
It starts.
I mean, there's a lot in there.
There's a lot, but what you're really saying is, like, what is a good job? What is a bad job? What is a clean job? What is a dirty job? And once you start to create some sort of hierarchy, which makes sense, everybody's free to do it. You ought to do it. But, you know, if Bayard were here, the American Giant guy, he would tell you a story about the individuals who made that sweatshirt, right? He would show you the factory line. Mm-hmm. He would introduce you to the farmers who grew the cotton. He would show you step by step how his entire supply chain is insulated from these tariffs. These tariffs hadn't affected him at all because he doesn't rely on any of it.
Right.
He's totally independent. So he's taken kind of a victory lap right now. But his big point would be, you would have to see the enthusiasm among his group of workers when they created a sweatshirt that became the greatest hoodie ever made. And you can look at that and go, it's a freaking sweatshirt, dude. But it's not a sweatshirt.
Right.
It's not that. It's not about the sweatshirt.